Hi everyone, my name is Jimmy Smith and welcome to episode number 81 of the Rambler podcast, where we are passionate about sharing what makes Cathedral Prep the standard of excellence. On this episode of the podcast, we are thrilled to have Jeff Hamley on as a guest. Born in Cleveland, Ohio to Gary and Viv Hamley, Jeff moved to Erie at the age of 3, where we were just talking about your next door neighbors with Ricky Reeves. Shout out to Ricky.
Yep.
And he attended St. Luke's for grade school and then graduated from Cathedral Prep in 2004. After prep, Jeff went on to graduate from Slippery Rock University in 2008 with a bachelor's in business administration. At both prep and Slippery Rock, he played on the soccer team and was a member of the 2001 state championship team at prep and the 2005 PSAC championship team at SRU. Soccer was always at the forefront for Jeff, but he developed a love for golf at an early age, playing most summers with friends at J.C. Martin or with his parents at Gospel Hill or Green Meadows. After school in 2008, Jeff accepted an entry-level recruiting/sales job at a company based in Baltimore at their Chambersburg, PA office. Working long hours, making cold calls, and going on sales meeting, he got promoted and moved to Harrisburg in 2010, and he has called the capital area home ever since then. He married Melanie Nolt in 2017 and simultaneously was ready for a big career change. He left Aerotech in 2019 after 11 years, and with a blessing from Melanie, I like that you had this,
Yeah.
to pursue his dream job as professional tour caddy. 4 weeks into his caddying journey, Jeff was hired by Andrew Novak and has been working for him ever since. They spent 3 years in the minor leagues for the Corn Ferry Tour before graduating to the PGA Tour in 2022. Now they are in their 4th year on the PGA Tour together, and this past April, they recorded their first PGA Tour win, the Zurich Classic. What a cool intro story, Jeff. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Jimmy, thanks for having me. It's great to be back home at Prep and even back in Erie, PA. I mean, I haven't lived here in a few years, but Erie's always going to be have a special place in my heart, and especially being a Rambler.
Absolutely. Well, it was pretty neat. We saw you last summer when you came back, and
Yep.
That's when you got the official tour it was reunion weekend, right?
That's
for your
right.
class?
Yeah, our
Yep.
20th high school reunion, and great to reconnect with some of my classmates and just to see the advancements that Prep's made. It kind of goes, hand in hand. Whenever you move out, things get nicer, right? That's kind of been how things work. But to see the unbelievable technology center you have here and the new sports field. I know it's not new anymore, but newer to me.
Yeah,
but,
certainly.
To see what the commitment Prep's had to grow and it's awesome to see them. You have everyone's the youth set up for many generations ahead. So
Yeah.
Awesome to see, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's really neat. There's a lot of good stuff happening at Prep, and I always enjoy connecting with alumni who, to your point, you live in Harrisburg now, you haven't been here in a little while, right? And everything's new, the building, but also the event center and all the stuff happening. So I love sharing what's happening at Prep with people like yourselves and connecting with our old stories too.
Yeah, and even being in Harrisburg, if I somehow run into a Prep grad, the first thing they say is they introduce themselves, the year they graduated, and then we're off into a conversation. And it's just such a brotherhood and now I guess a sisterhood too, I should say.
Yep.
Of just a mutual respect of the values that men of Prep share that it goes with you for the rest of your life. And neat to see fellow Ramblers, whether it's in Harrisburg or out on the road on tour. I've seen quite a few Prep grads. I hear a Roll Ramblers chant every now and then in every city we go to, and it's just
awesome.
It's really neat. It instantly perks my attention, and
Yep.
I know they're not just they're saying that with some vindication of let's talk Prep and just so much support of what we do.
Yeah, that is so cool. I was wondering if when you're out in the tour, out in the road and stuff, you're getting those Roll Rambler chants while you're out there.
We are, and it's so funny because last Sunday, for example, we were paired with Scotty Scheffler in his hometown in Dallas. We were in Fort Worth, Texas for the Charles Schwab. And it was on Sunday, and we were both pretty much in contention. And we ended up finishing 11th, and Scotty finished 6th. And he went on to win this next week, yesterday at the Memorial. And he's the best player in the world, right? Scotty Scheffler, he's #1 player in the world. And the most amazing thing that I can't get over of playing with him is that when he's walking down a fairway, he has everybody there yelling, "Go Scotty, Scotty, Scotty!" Like how you're able to focus with 20,000 people yelling your name for 5 hours straight. It blows my mind. And that how he wants. I can tell he wants to acknowledge all of the fans, but you can't acknowledge everybody every minute. But whenever I hear a Roll Ramblers chant, I know they're talking to me. Right? I mean, there's not that happens once or twice, and they certainly have my attention. So.
It's got to make you feel good. Pump your chest a little bit, like take that, Scotty.
I'm not going to go that far, but it's nice to see the prep community behind me and what we do, and just to say, hey, we're cheering for you. It's awesome. I've always felt supported out there.
That's cool. That's really cool to hear, and I think it's just a testament to what it means, as you were saying, part of that brotherhood and now sisterhood of prep, and us sticking together as alumni. We didn't know each other. I graduated in 2011, year 2004, but we share in that together. That we're alumni of this school and brothers in prep. And where it all started for you, of course, as you were talking about in your bio, you went to St. Luke's.
Yep.
And then you decided to come to prep. Can you maybe talk us through that decision for you to attend prep? Because now were both your parents from Cleveland, so they weren't familiar with it?
My mom is from here. She went to East and then went to Gannon.
Gotcha.
So we've always had some. But my dad is from Cleveland, and they met in Cleveland. And I live on the east side of town, closest probably to Mount Carmel.
Okay.
And to St. James, like in between. We grew up off of Kohler Road on 42nd Street. Which is nice, closer to Barron, but with St. James and Mount Carmel nearby, believe it or not, my next door neighbors had sons that went to prep. So and St. Luke's. So I kind of followed their footsteps. They had a great great things to say, reviews about St. Luke's, and then the latter prep. But what I wanted to participate. I wanted to be on a sports team that had a chance to win state championships, if we're being frank. And nothing against the other schools in the area, but I knew that I wanted to play soccer at a high level, to me a high level, right? Yeah. And then maybe play in college. And I had a love for it, and I started to see some success in my club team, which we played up at Family First, which I don't think it's called Family First anymore, but that's how people know what I'm talking about. And from kind of being around and seeing prep excel on the field, I knew the schoolwork was going to be important too. And my relationship with prep academically is not the same as some of my classmates. And but that's one of the things that's great about prep, because I took German when I was here. I did 4 years with Mr. Deschner.
That's awesome.
And I probably was the lowest GPA in that class. I guarantee it. He even said, if you stick with me for 4 years, the German 4 year you will basically get straight A's. And he held his promise. And I don't know. I don't want to say I failed every year, but it was a very demanding, challenging class.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is my classmates that were in German 4 went to Harvard, Yale, Notre Dame, like great men of prep that wanted to excel academically. And I appreciate what I learned from prep here, but I was more focused on the athletic side. And I think there's and that came true. I mean, in 2001, we won the PIAA state championship for soccer.
Right.
Now, I was an underclassman on the team. I did not. It needs to be on record. I did not play in the state championship game.
I can tell it hurt to say that.
It does hurt. Yeah. We blew out the team in the Western final. I want to say it was Upper St. Clair, so I did play in that game. But
nice.
It was a great team with great players, and we won our the district a couple times. But what really, when it came down to prep, I knew that if I put myself, if I work hard on the field, I'll have a chance to start on the team and maybe get looked at and play in college. And it took till my junior year to do that, but that's the competition is great here, and I wanted that competition, and that's really about probably the first thing I learned about being at prep is the sense of competition. That hits you as soon as you walk in the door, whether it's to compete academically or athletically. Prep embodies that, and that is so special. And I hope this school carries that with them for years and years to come, because once you leave prep, it is the real world, if you want to say that. And you are going to compete for everything, for jobs, for promotions, for whether in your friend circle, there's just always competition that prep is going to, it hits you as soon as you walk in. You kind of, size up you size up your classmates, and you're like, oh wow, we have some bright minds and able bodies from all over the Erie County area, and that really hit me as soon as I walked in the door freshman year. Like, okay, this isn't St. Luke's anymore. This is prep, and this is where people are coming here to do great things. And that is so special, and I hope prep continues that, and for generations to come.
Yeah, I remember, similar to you, that, you come to prep, you got the orange and black. It just raises the expectation, raises the bar. And, kind of part of my intro I always say is we're passionate about sharing what makes Cathedral Prep the standard of excellence. And it's what the institution represents, but it's also the level in which us as the students at the time raise the bar by our teachers, by our coaches, by, all of our peers as we're competing together to be the best of the best. Because ultimately, yes, we're competing against ourselves, each other on the team, but that's to make us all better. So when we're out there competing with other teams, we're that much better.
Absolutely. And in practice, you realize that, I realize it so much, because some of the great soccer players on our team, Matt Stachinsky's a name that stands out, Braden Byler and Kyle Braybender, some great players I played with, and they all went and played Division I soccer. And I remember in practice being like, man, thank God those guys are on our team. They are tough, and that's why they went on to do great things on the field. And I'm glad they were, when we came together and we played McDowell and beat them, and played against St. Ignatius and some schools from Pittsburgh. Like we won games because we pushed each other in practice, and then performed on the field, and that is such a small indication of what the microcosm of life too, of putting yourself around great people, surrounding yourself with the best people you possibly can, because you're going to have challenges along every step of the way, and that's gonna, prep's gonna, you're gonna prepare you for that.
Yeah. And one other note I wanted to make for you too, you were mentioning Rolf Deschner. I had him not for German, but for world geography my freshman year. And, I remember he was a stickler. He was tough, but you'll be happy to know. So he taught for 50 years there at Prep. He retired in 2018. To this day, he still is a substitute teacher.
No way.
And I still see him in the halls very, very often. Maybe before you leave, we'll check and see if he's still in today.
I don't think he... For some reason, I was one of those students where I don't think I stood out. And I tried
to... stood out for the other reasons.
Right. So maybe.
No, that's funny. No, I mean, but those are the things that make Prep special, are those teachers who have been here for decades, and they were here forever, and they're legends, what I mean? And,
I know we lost Sister Jim, but she was a living legend when I was here, and Father McCormick.
Still teaching.
Yeah, that's amazing.
He still has his one or two classes he does.
It's great to see how much pride they take, because I know you have to teach here. They have other options. They're choosing to be involved with our school, and that takes. We can't thank them enough for what the sacrifice, maybe not the correct word, but they have
dedication.
Dedicate, absolutely, because they could financially, I'm sure, move on to other things, but they know for 50 years to teach here, that is it's really special, and we can't thank them enough.
Absolutely, and not to mention, I got to give a shout out to Bob Achille. He's retiring. 46 years.
I had algebra with him. Does that sound right?
That sounds right.
That's what he got, algebra, right? Yeah, I had him. I absolutely had Mr. Achille. And we always bought our prep football tickets from him.
Okay, nice.
That's where he was always selling selling tickets for $2. I don't know if they're $2 now. They might
a little bit more, but not too much. Yeah, maybe $4. Yeah. That's awesome. No, that's cool. I appreciate you reflecting with me about what prep meant to you and continues to mean for you, and your hopes for the future students that will be here. I mean, that's our goal, is that we continue to have that standard of excellence for current students, so they go out in the world and do great things like you're doing, which I'm excited to get in and talk with you a little about here. We were joking before we were recording, but I was asking you about the Netflix series Full Swing. I said, have you guys been featured in it yet? Because I haven't watched the whole thing yet. I'm starting to make my way through the first season, which was a few years ago. It was done. And you were saying you've been on it.
Yeah. I got sent a screenshot of a millisecond of us in the background one time. They were doing a special on Sahith Theegala, who's a really big-time player. I went to Princeton, and they were doing a feature on him, and he's just done some wonderful things. And we were paired with him, and I think they panned over to us for a second. But no, I would, I'd hope Andrew would get some attention. It's funny when I first started working for him, and they don't air many of the minor league events on television, but we were doing pretty good in one of the first tournaments we were working, and all of a sudden, this is one that was aired, and then the cameras come right over to you. So it's like, we must be in the lead or close to it if we can see a scoreboard if the cameras are following you. So they gravitate towards the players that play the best. I always get a little nervous that the cameras they're always filming, but they're only going to air like the guys who are either in the lead or if your name's Ricky Fowler or Rory McIlroy. So we understand that, but you never know what they're going to catch. The microphones are all over the place. They even have some hidden that so they look better on television. And I always get a little nervous that I'm going to get off the course and someone's going to be like, "You wouldn't believe what these guys did today." Like, "Oh, let's show you how not to do this." Like it's always in the back of my mind. But no, Full Swing. They haven't got into us yet, but it's I recommend it. It gives a little bit of a snapshot. There's one episode I'd recommend specifically where they talk about the player and caddy. It's Joel Damon and his caddy Gino Bonelli. They've become friends of ours, and it kind of gives you a really good insider view on kind of the player-caddy relationship. That they talk to some of the higher up guys, and they're talking about flying private and all this, and that's just not real golf for 95% of the tour. Most of the players out there are honestly fighting for their jobs every week. Unless your world rank is in that top, really top 20, top 30 players in the world. Golf, you could, for the golfers at home, like there's good days and there's bad days, and if a couple bad days add up, all of a sudden some doubt can creep in, and a few bad results can really kind of steer your confidence. And so the player caddy relationship that Joel and Gino talk about, because Joel has had some struggles, and how Gino's been there to help him get through some things, and I would recommend that episode if you're gonna you don't have time for all of them. I would check that one out.
I was recommended it by actually TJ Richter, class of 01. He's if you remember that name at all from around your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, good guy. He's on our board now, and so him and I were chatting a few months ago, and I was telling him I had the ACL surgery coming up, and he recommended checking out this documentary, Full Swing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I started it. It's really good. It's been pretty interesting to see that life, that these golfers can live and how it works. And I've never been really into golf, but over the last few years I've been wanting to, and I've done a little bit more and more, and now I'm like kind of getting sucked into this whole new world. Yeah, well, it's an absolutely great game, and I, my parents took me to I played all over, but I mostly played at J.C. Martin as a kid, and they owned the Dairy Queen on the corner of Peach and Cherry. Right by the YMCA. It goes to Zoo, J.C. Martin, YMCA, and the Dairy Queen. Yep. So I learned later on that J.C. Martin was a means of babysitting for me, where they would drop me off in the morning, go to work, and they'd pick me up when they were done. Where I thought I was getting, like, oh, this is the greatest summer ever. My parents are letting me golf all day. Right. A membership was like $150 back then. I know Erie's done really well to keep that price down for junior players.
and I'd play golf all day. And
Right.
whether we were, there were some times we probably were screwing around and
Sure.
watching the buffaloes in the, in the zoo and looking for golf balls or climbing trees, right? We weren't always probably doing I wasn't always working on my swing. Hence why I'm a caddy and not a player.
There you go.
I never developed those skills adequately, but neat place, and I miss it. I might even try to sneak over there later today.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Get out just for old time's sake.
Absolutely,
Yeah, that's super funny. Well, and I think it's pretty interesting too. Your background with how you even got into caddying. I was reading it a little bit. And I shouldn't even say how you got into caddying, because that's not necessarily what got you there. But just for a quick second here, just before we get into the caddying questions I have for you, do you think there was an element of developing mental fortitude, involved in? You mentioned the cold calling, the sales visits, the late night. Do you think that starting out at Aerotech and having that type of position kind of helped you a little bit with the mentality of being a caddy?
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
It's a funny question.
No, but the cold calling side of it absolutely helped in a couple ways. And the first one that comes to mind is the ability to talk to anybody. And you have to, when you're making cold calls, I don't know who's going to answer the phone, if it's going to be a receptionist or the owner of a company or the GM or an employee, and anywhere in between.
Right.
And you have to be able to talk to sales. Really, I enjoyed that career. Absolutely. It was 11 years.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the career. I learned so much from Aerotech, and really about pushing yourself to meet goals. And prep, that starts at prep. I mean, honestly, like having that, the competition that prep I talked about earlier, and took that to Slippery Rock. I would say I learned more about prep there than Slippery Rock. And college was more of learning how to be an adult and live on your own, and make sure your laundry's ready. Little things like that.
I have to do that now.
Like being on time for class, and those adult things that you really I think college really helps you take on that next step in life. But going to Aerotech, there was a very commission-based job, so the cold calls, there was a very easy formula that I saw early on, and I talked about it, and people probably thought I was a little nuts at first, where the way I calculated it was, I want to play golf every day. Now, I didn't really get into me wanting to be a caddy at first, because that passion was always there, but I would say I didn't want my focus. I was serious about my career, and I wanted to create a life for my wife, that she could be settled in a nice neighborhood and a nice home and everything. Get that all kind of
for sure
responsibly done, right? So I'm not urging everyone to quit what they're doing and follow their dream job immediately. There's a responsible way to do it, and that I need that kind of be underlined, because I've talked to a couple of groups, and it's like, okay, don't everyone just tell your boss you're leaving, because if I'm talking to a company, my goal is not to tell you to leave what you're doing and go somewhere else. No, but it's to do what you want to do and take steps to pursue it. That may be within the same company you work for. There may be a promotion you want or a different department. You don't have to leave your career to go follow your dreams, right? But identifying what that is identifying your dreams is certainly something that I would encourage, from a young age, for the students of prep now, to identify what are your dreams. Where do you want to go? How they may be crazy at first, but you can start to always work a little bit towards that. So the formula I'm speaking of is, I wanted to play golf or be on a golf course every day. Okay, well, how do you do that? And I started to work backwards. Well, to do that, I probably have to be retired or in a financially good place to be able to play golf every day. Okay, well, how do you get to that point? Well, you have success at work. Well, how do you success at work? Well, you have a lot of sales. Well, how do you have a lot of sales? You make a lot of cold calls. And I drew a direct correlation back from, I make a lot of cold calls. That could lead directly to me playing golf every day, or working in the profession, and or being retired. And I honestly didn't know that. I knew this career was possible, but to be sitting here with you, I got to say, the reality of the things working out how they did is probably a long shot, honestly. I mean, it's kind of nuts, but having enough belief and commitment to following that, kind of, again, maybe some serendipitous actions and some luck here and there, if you want to call it that. But from working at Aerotech and starting to, kind of lay some foundation and lay those, those, I guess, the principles of hard work and pursuing that goal. That started to open up some more thoughts, because as I was getting probably about 8 or 9 years in, I had met Melanie, and she was working. She worked for Hershey for the last 9 years. She's left there since then. But and they're actually. And I had talked to her about pursuing, my next career, and I was ready to move on from the sales cold call life, and I was 32, 33, and probably one of the older people in my office, and it was like a young man's game, or to say kind of it's great for student, for young adults that want to have a chance to flourish, and here's a phone book, get to work, and that's kind of how simple it was. But Melanie and I had talked, and I had put this in a bug in her ear early on that I wanted to pursue caddying, and she acknowledged that, but it was, I have a lot of half-baked ideas. So she's like, okay,
you
let's
seem like a high-energy guy with a lot of ideas,
right? And most go nowhere. But I was consistent about this one, and enough where, okay, like, I'm thinking about, I still want to do this, and I actually was at a lunch with one of my customers, potential customers. I was trying to grow business, and it didn't get anywhere, and not that matters, but it kind of
still sticks with you.
But there are sales. There's unsuccessful sales, but it does bother me a little bit. But and we were talking about what we want to do, and I give her all the credit in the world. And we were at this diner down in York, Pennsylvania, and I told her, she's like, what do you want to do after this? And I never really thought about answering that so brutally honest. I was like, you know what, I want to be a tour caddy. And I'd always did, but I'd never really vocalized that, to people outside of my inner circle. And she's like, okay, well, what steps have you done to do that? And I'm thinking here, and I said, you know what, I'm talking to you. That's it. I mean, I haven't really done it. I've always thought about it. She said, well, what, let's make some steps. And I was like, you know what, I never heard asked that question. I never thought of it like so many people have dreams and want to do, great things, or maybe it's go on a vacation or go somewhere. Okay, well, what have you planned for that vacation? What steps are you starting to make? Because nothing's going to happen if you don't take steps to make that happen. Whether it's as big as going out to dinner that night, you might have to call and get a reservation. You can't things don't happen unless you make action, right? Right. And especially going to a job switch like I did, there was going to take some serious action to happen for me to make this move. And one of the first things I did, and I talked to Melanie about this, is she said, okay, Jeff, I want to see a PowerPoint. And no eyes have seen this PowerPoint other than hers and mine. And maybe one day I'll release
Maybe we'll share it with the public.
Maybe one day. But the PowerPoint, we went to dinner one night, and I'll tell you this, the first slide was a picture of Tiger Woods and Joe LaCava, his former caddy. And it was a picture of them hugging and embracing after they won a championship. Yeah. And that was my first slide. That's all I'm going to say. But it went through, and it went through some detail with her how I want to do this, and I think, and she signed off on it. Okay, I'll jump to conclusion. I genuinely think she just wanted to see how passionate I was about this. Where is this a half-baked idea, or am I actually going to build a PowerPoint? She's a CPA by trade, so she lives in that Excel PowerPoint world. She is very data tech driven. I work on a golf course. I couldn't be further from the tech side. We are a yin and a yang with our relationship. And I put together a PowerPoint and remembered my skills from prep to do that.
There we go.
First PowerPoint I made in a long time. She signed off on it. So I started to network, and I started to get the word out that I'm, going to do this. I vocalized it, and that was probably the most vulnerable place I was, because I heard, trust me, and even in my company, I was somewhat careful in my company, but word did get out about that, and I had a few people once I really started to make some headway. I'll get into that in a second, but like I had some leadership say how big of a mistake I'm making, and that really honestly motivated me to go even more, because the leadership had always been so supportive of pushing you to do great things. Well, in my mind, I was doing something great. Now, it wasn't for their organization, and that really struck me as, okay, they selfishly wanted me to exceed because it helped them at their company. The people that cared about me specifically, and there were plenty of people that pushed me personally, and I'm only speaking to a few individuals, but that really stuck with me as a motivating factor to be like, okay, if that's how some people in leadership see it, I know I'm making the right decision to leave, because I want to pursue this on my own, and if they care about me, they're gonna push me. And I have some great friends from that organization that still are so supportive, and honestly wouldn't probably be here without the support of some people, because I didn't just start on the PGA Tour. You don't just start with raising a trophy. And that's for any profession. You don't start at the top. Whether you're going into business or finance or the medical field or any sort of profession, there's no starting at the top. You have to start at the bottom and you work your way up.
That's right.
That principle can't be lost, because the real world will remind you very quickly that that's how it works. So my wife, when she signed off on it, she even told her friends and family, and I was a little timid about some of that, because it is not, I want to say embarrassing, but it was vulnerable. Vulnerable is the best word to use.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And one of the marker moments in this journey happened from my wife's side of the family. So she's from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and her Aunt Faye I've only met Aunt Faye a couple times, okay? And she's a big part of this story, which is so funny. I met her at a couple of family reunions, and she's not Amish, but she has a very good relationship with the Amish community. I want to say she has some, she has a business that, she's certainly not in tune with the golf world. That's the most polite way I can say that she's not in tune with the golf world. And I get a voicemail from Aunt Faye. We've never spoken on the phone. I've met her like 3, maybe our wedding and 2 reunions.
Right.
And she leaves me a voicemail and says, "Hey Jeff, I heard you want to be a caddy. I met a professional golfer. I know a professional golfer. Give me a call." And I'm thinking, she went to Dick's Sporting Goods and met the guy selling putters, and he told her he wants to be a professional golfer, and she's saying, "I'm going to connect you."
Or I'm a golf pro.
Right, I'm a golf pro. Store. Exactly, at the store, and I want to be a golfer. And I'm going to connect my...
Which, if you're listening and you are a golf pro at Dick's, no, this isn't about you.
No, absolutely. But with her level of understanding the sport, I'm saying that's what it is. And I kid you not, her husband's side of the family had a niece named Maddie Myers, okay? Mm-hmm. We fast forward, her last name's Novak now. It was Andrew's wife.
Wow.
Andrew's wife has a familial connection to Aunt Faye through some marriage and some paperwork. I mean, it's a family trees type situation.
Yeah.
But they were dating at the time. They're now married.
Wow.
And she goes, "Yeah, I know my niece is dating a golfer. He's a professional. He's in the minor leagues. His name's Andrew Novak. I want to introduce you to him." And I was like, "That sounds great. That's amazing. Where
do I sign?
Let's talk." So we set up this.
That is just so cool. I just want to make a note about how, until you verbalized it, until you put pen to paper, you made a plan, you started to talk about it, you started to tell people about it, you were in that vulnerable spot. Yes. I'm thinking about, you talking about criticism from your company, criticism from friends and family about why would you want to pursue that? Why would you want to leave this good job? And until you were bold enough to say, this is what I'm going to pursue, and then it's amazing how God can open doors for you that you didn't even know were there.
Had
That
no
is
idea.
so
Had
cool.
no idea.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
I had chills while you were telling me.
Yeah, no, we did. The support was overwhelmingly positive, but again, in some of like my wife's grandparents, this is a very untraditional route. They wanted me to be home working 9 to 5, us having, my wife being at home, multiple children. Like that's how Lancaster County, they were raised in the 1930s. That's how they saw things. This was extremely unconventional.
Right.
My wife was going to be the breadwinner for a few years, and that's great. I was so happy. I was thrilled for Melanie to take on that role for our family while she supported me to do this. And,
how cool.
So Aunt Faye is one major piece of this.
Yes.
I'm going to say an equally weird piece that happened simultaneously. So when I was at Aerotech, I had met another friend of mine who had a friend of a friend that was caddying on the Corn Ferry Tour. He's from Dillsburg, Pennsylvania. So I never met him, but we had texted a few times. I told him I wanted in, and we built a little friendship through text through maybe a year. And he always told me that, hey, there's jobs available, but you have to be all in. You cannot have a full-time job at home and work as a caddy on tour. The player is going to require your presence for 25 to 35 weeks a year, and that the consistency of a good, you could fill in from week to week, but if you want to have a career out there, you're going to be with the same player consistently through a time. And so that was always a hang up. Like I could always do a week here and there. And I even have people reach out to me often today, like, hey, if you ever know anybody looking, I'm available. Well, it doesn't really work like that, but I could get somebody a job in the minor leagues, when I was out there for a week. But again, it wouldn't be a great job, and it would only last for a week, and you'd probably lose money doing it because that's but travel costs and expenses, it is not a glamorous lifestyle by any means in the minor leagues. I can't express that enough. And anyone, if you think about the Erie Seawolves, those players want to make it to the Tigers, right?
Yeah.
I think the Seals are still affiliated with the Tigers, right? Their goal is to not be a Double-A baseball player. Their goal is to play in the majors.
Right.
And it's the same for golf. You're gonna go through some hardships in the minors to get to where you want to go. But I get a phone call from my caddy friend. He's never called me. We've only texted, and my phone's ringing, and it's the beginning of January, and I know the first term of the year is like in a couple of days.
Right.
And I literally looked at my wife. I said, "This is the call. There's no reason for him to call me. This is the call."
Yeah.
And he called, and I answered the phone, and he told me the situation. And a player by the name of Danny Walker, who's on the PGA Tour now, his caddy couldn't get to the Bahamas because of a passport issue. And if I could get to the Bahamas in 24 hours, I had his job for the week. I said, his name's Colton, my buddy. I said, Colton, tell Danny I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I told my wife, called my boss, and I said, he knew this was, again, I started to verbalize this.
Yep.
He said, Jeff, go ahead, but I need you to be at a conference in Orlando. Like there's a conference the next week. I knew it was coming up.
Yeah.
If you do what you got to do, take the vacation time, but you have to be at this conference, or I'm going to have to answer some questions about this, and I don't want to get into it. I said, okay, boss, no problem. I'll be at the conference in Orlando, which I'm getting to is a part of the story.
Oh, gosh.
But I got to go to the Bahamas. I have to do this.
Yeah.
So I get on the next day, go to the Bahamas. I get down there. I made $800 that week, and it cost me $1,500. So I lost $700 going to work the first week.
Yep.
Not a great pitch to the wife that this is how it's going to go, but she understood that there is an investment to make. Like if I'm going to do this, like it costs money. Most caddies lose money in the minor leagues. Players barely make any. They're probably breaking even. I mean, it is income versus expenses is very fine line, and caddies are right there too. It is you're probably going to lose money.
Yeah.
But if you want to get to the PGA Tour, you have to do that.
Yeah.
So I go to the Bahamas. I meet Danny. Quick side note: he had just won the qualifying tournament to get into the minor league. So he was part of the feature pairing for that week, and it was one of the televised ones. And I kid you not, there was a reporter, his name's Gary Christian. He comes over to me, my first day with Danny, he goes, "Hey, tell me what you like about Danny's game. You're his caddy." I'm like, wait. I literally just met the guy. I literally just flew in. I think I've heard about. I gave him.
Yeah.
I said I heard he's a great kid, and I came up with something, but I was like, I just met him, which was a neat experience to kind of see the production side of golf from the start, because that we are. It is an entertainment sport. We are putting on a show for fans all over the world, and the players and caddies are the entertainment. We're performing our trait to do that. So I finished the week, and I have to get to Orlando for this conference. Now, the whole tour was going from one island in the Bahamas to another, so there was a chartered flight to get to the other island. Well, I had to go to Orlando, so I'm in the airport waiting for my flight back to the mainland, and there's one other guy sitting in the airport, and he's got a golf hat on, and I was like, I'm going to go strike up a conversation with him, and his name was Ralph Novak. It was Andrew's dad.
Oh my gosh!
And he had to get to work. He was filling in, so Andrew had no status on that tour, but there's a clause that if you finish in the top 25 of an event in the minors, you get automatically into the next week.
Okay.
So he had no status, but he finished in 25th place, on the number.
Oh my gosh!
To get into the next week, so he had to go to the next week. He found another a local caddy. His dad had to go back to work. I have to go back to work, and we talked there for an hour.
Wow.
And just while we waited for our plane, had a great conversation. And so now, simultaneously, I heard about Andrew through Faye.
Right.
I met Ralph, and now stars are starting to align.
Yeah.
And so I come home from the Bahamas. I tell my wife how amazing. It was such a. I lost money doing it, and I said, where do I sign up for this? Right. I felt that I love the competition that golf offers, the tournament component, and what the responsibilities a caddy has to do from, it's a very long list of a resume. It's a very wide job description, but from I love what that job encapsulated. I said, I really think I can do this and do this at a high level, and I want to pursue it. So I gave my boss a month notice because the tour was off. They were going to after Bahamas, they went to Bogota and Panama, and so I went back to work. Yeah, gave my notice, and then I hit the road. And I went to my first stop was in Louisiana. I worked for an Australian player, which is on the surface doesn't mean anything until you learn they play in meters, not yards. So my first 2 weeks with him, we worked in meters, and it's only meters about 10% more than a yard.
Okay.
So some simple math, but I was so nervous about it. I went through and I made sure all my numbers were in meters, just to I didn't want to make as few mistakes as possible. And I learned so much from that player. He was tough to work for, but I learned a lot. And then the following week, I got a message from Andrew Novak. He got my number from our mutual friend, and he said, "Let's get started in San Antonio, Texas." It was our first event, and I said, "Okay, sounds good. I'm in." And that was 7 years ago.
Wow! And you look at how all those things led up to that point, where you finally got a chance to connect with Andrew, and all those little connections, all those little moments, those big decisions, those talks, and here you are, 7 years later, looking back on it.
And now he's a PGA Tour winner.
Yeah,
he's the 33rd ranked player in the world.
It's amazing.
And so I owe Aunt Faye a ton of credit. Our conversation was
shout out Aunt Faye.
Aunt Faye, huge shout out Aunt Faye. But now, looking back, and Andrew has had, this may pivot our conversation, but, Andrew's had ups and downs, lefts and rights, and he's been extremely loyal to me, and I've been loyal to him, and I know I've made plenty of mistakes. and he's had opportunities to fire me, and he certainly has. And knowing Aunt Faye, like that relationship, as much as she helped me get in, and anywhere, just because you get in somewhere, you have to stay there. Yeah. And, if you get accepted to prep, okay, great. Congratulations. You've been accepted to prep. Now what?
Right.
And that now what attitude has helped me learn how to become a PGA Tour caddy, because just because I got the job with Andrew, okay, now I have to keep that job.
Right.
Trust me, there's a lot of caddies that want to work for a player that's ranked 33rd in the world. I have to work my tail off even more to make sure that we are performing at the level that we expect out of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that just because you have the job, that probably is even harder now to keep the job than it was to get the job.
So it sounds like you've had this dream of being a caddy. You kind of would say it a little bit here and there. I'm not going to summarize everything you just said, but you got to this point where you felt like you belonged. You felt like this is what you were here to do. My question for you is, over the last 7 years, have you had moments of doubt? Have you had moments where you started to question, am I really meant to be here?
Yeah,
and kind of maybe share with that a little bit.
Jimmy, that's a great question. And yes, the answer is yes. However, there's a yes, however.
Yeah.
Moments of doubt, I think it's okay to reflect where you're at. And I would call more, instead of moments of doubt, maybe moments of reflection, where I've been in some cities that, like, the minor leagues, we go to, the PGA Tour goes to the big cities in our country. The minor leagues go to the small cities. So we're in, Springfield, Illinois, and Springfield, Missouri. Heck, every Springfield I feel like I've been in, okay? And we're in these towns, and it's like, I never doubted what I'm doing, because doubt needs squashed immediately. It needs to be killed, because if that can creep in, that can flow into other areas that are really can be troublesome to get you off of the confidence you have in your journey. So I wouldn't say doubt, but in those moments of reflection, kind of realizing, okay, this is where we're at. This is all part of the journey, part of the process. Let's check in with the wife. Let's check in with the family. Let's check in with the job. Like, are things still moving in the place we want to be, and what areas may need some maintenance? So maybe I realize that sometimes, hey, I've been on the road for too long. I need to give some time. Need to make sure I'm making some investments in the family, and making some commitments to be home more, or make some more. Whether it's family reunions, or like, I have to make sure that I'm reflecting on kind of where I'm at and what the current situation is, versus letting doubt seep in.
I tell you what, that's probably one of the best reframing statements I've ever heard. And I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here, but I think I just try to be such a student of success and principles and what it takes to make it. And this conversation of doubt you might read about in a book or hear on a podcast, but to actually replace that doubt with reflections. And as you're talking, I realize, what, moments and seasons of doubt that I've had, I do think it was more seasons of reflections.
I bet it was.
And it's probably like God telling me, you need to really identify what's going on here and maybe, evaluate some things.
Absolutely. And that's responsible to evaluate and take presence of, am I living, the way I had hoped I had.
Right.
Am I presenting myself the best possible way to help others, and through God's mission and all those it's not doubt. We kill the doubt as quick as we can and reflect. So
that's so good. I really appreciate you sharing that perspective, because that's what I hope as our listeners are hearing this episode, they get some value out of these conversations.
Sure.
They hear your journey and what you had to do to get to where you are, and then be able to pick up a couple life lessons from you as well. And it's pretty neat. So 7 years of grinding with Andrew, right? You guys are doing the minor leagues. You're in the PGA Tour. He's ranked 33rd in the world. I mean, how amazing for you guys as a team to see where you're at. Can you talk to us about the Zurich Classic this past
Absolutely,
April? Like, what did that moment mean for you guys now after all these years together and getting to this point?
So we've had a couple of chances lately to win, and winning on the PGA Tour, I can't even get into how challenging that is.
I bet.
It's there's 156 guys basically in most tournaments, and there's one winner, right?
Yeah.
If you have a team sport, half win, half lose. It's there's one winner. You're going to lose so much more than you're going to win, and all that losing though, we're looking to take positives out of it. Right. So I'm going to back up 1 week from the Zurich. The week before, we lost in a playoff to Justin Thomas in Harbortown, and that got aired pretty wildly as Justin Thomas's return to the winner's circle. And unfortunately, in the future, people will remember Justin Thomas' playoff win, and I'll be we're the guy he lost to. But that's okay. And yeah. Andrew played so well under all the pressure, and we had a chance to win. And whenever you have a chance to win, we are high-fiving, and we're in the locker room right afterwards. And he says to me, he goes, Jeff, I could have played a little bit better today. Mm-hmm. And I said, Andrew, that's wonderful. Careful how you word that out there, because you played great. Make sure I want to be humble and go about this the right way. But I love hearing that attitude of there's more in the tank. We're going to continue to look for opportunities to learn from every loss or win along the way. That is, you can lose and in defeat, you can still win, right? And there's ways to do that, especially in golf, because you're going to lose more than you win, way more.
Right.
So we thought, we were in the locker room talking like, hey, let's use that optimism. Let's take the positives. You played great. The pressure was, your swing held up under pressure. You had a chance. Like, those are all great things. Let's apply that next week. Mm. And 7 days later, he raised the trophy with Ben Griffin at the Zurich Classic. So having a positive mindset there is 100% the reason he was able to go in there to Zurich with an attitude of, I'm going to win, not, oh man, we lost, shucks, that's too bad, I feel sorry for myself, and I doubted that he's ever going to do it. No, if anything, it fueled his fire even more that he can do it, and he's going to do it. And usually it doesn't happen 7 days later, but it did for us. And it was, that's the only tour event where you get a partner, which is a unique phrase. But golf all over the country, if you and I were going to go play, you're probably going to play in a partner game. Usually, every country club or golf course has people playing games 2-on-2. So we picked. Ben Griffin and Andrew are good friends, and Ben is, since he actually just won again in Colonial 2 weeks ago. So Ben's been on fire.
Yeah.
I'd like to, Andrew and I joke with Ben that we were, the reason he got on fire.
Of course.
So we're going to take a little bit of credit there, in tongue in cheek there. But raising that trophy with him. His wife was there, celebrating. We had a quick embrace on the 18th green as soon as the last putt went in, and it was just simply like, you did it.
Yeah.
You did. I said to him, you did it. I'm proud of you. And I'm just, this is just the beginning. So it's been, I'd like to say it's, kind of caps a chapter. I'm not going to say it caps the journey, because we're still building and still growing. We still have more goals to achieve, but that certainly closes the book on a chapter in our career of pre-winning a PGA Tour event. And,
absolutely.
What it took to get to that point.
It's a signature moment for you guys in this journey.
I'll remember the rest of my life, and to say he did it, it just allows him to, not only for job security with the technical, rewards he gets from actually being a PGA Tour winner. There's some perks that come with that, but just the confidence in, okay, I've put so much into this game, so much into my career, and to be at the pinnacle for a moment is something a lot of people don't get to achieve, and to know I had a hand in helping him get there one way or another. We joke about how much credit a caddy can take because it's the most subjective thing in sports. You cannot put a number on it.
Right.
There's no way to say a caddy saved you 1 stroke, saved you 5. You cannot. It's not measurable.
Right.
So I all I know is that. Andrew was extremely thankful, and that's all he can be. I know I'm a part of a team, and I'm doing my role to help the team win. That's all you can do. And whether you're on the soccer team or the swim team or the volleyball team, you do your role and the team wins. then it's about the team, right? And we're on Team Novak, and it was great to see him lift that trophy.
Well, it's so cool to hear about the role you play for him, and just like listening to you, I'm thinking, no wonder why he has you as his caddy. I mean, I'm sitting here ready to go, golf right now. I mean, I'm pumped up and excited just listening to you talk about the things you do with Andrew, and it's really exciting. And I'm thinking, man, I wish I had a caddy right here in my office, coaching me on what I need to do.
We can
talk, you're like a source of inspiration.
Well, we can talk about that. I am for hire.
Andrew's not going to listen to this one. I'm just kidding.
I absolutely will send it to him. We talk sport. When we're on the course, we're talking sports.
Yeah.
More than golf. Like he loves football. He loves basketball. We love all sports. Yeah. Hockey. And trust me, when I see the Cathedral Prep highlights come through for a state champion or Carter Starachi being the national champion again, I'm letting Andrew know that Cathedral Prep is making noise. So
he probably knows when he hears the roll Ramblers.
He does now.
Right?
He absolutely does now.
That's cool.
And he enjoys us, our team getting support from all walks of life.
That's really cool. Well, I'm going to wrap up this podcast by doing a full circle question for you. All right. Yeah. So we just got a few minutes left here while we're sitting here. My question for you is a bonus one. I ask all of the alumni guests on this question at the end, but it's a fun one. But if you could go back in time, all right, and knowing what you know now, right, all the experiences you've had, life lessons, etc., and talk at your commencement at Prep. You're at the Warner Theater. We just had graduation this past weekend. But what advice would you give your classmates if you had the opportunity to do that?
The first thing I'd talk about is if you treat people great, good things are going to happen. I don't care where you're working or what you're doing. If you treat the people around you as great as you can, you're going to create opportunities for yourself and for those people around you. And that's truly what it's about. I feel like the jobs I've had, the success we've had, those are all results. But the actual inputs are treating people around you the best you possibly can, helping others, helping your teammates, helping your customers, your vendors, whatever relationship you have with them. If you're putting other people first and you're helping them achieve their goals, it's amazing how many goals you're going to achieve for yourself.
That's awesome. It's so good. It's like, just black and white. That's what it is.
It's as simple as that. If I give you a second part of that, it's identify where you want to go. Dreams, goals, inspirations. Everybody has them. They're in there, but it may be vulnerable to talk through, to bring out, to identify.
Right.
So if you're surrounding yourself with your, I call it an inner circle. Like whoever your closest friends are, family, relationships you have, bounce it off them. Be vulnerable in identifying where you want to go, because if you do take steps to do those things, it can happen. Yeah. If you don't, it won't. It's as simple as that. And once I started to vocalize and talk about where I want to go, it's amazing that things can snowball into being here today. So, treating people great, identifying where you want to go, and be vulnerable. And, then after that, it's up to you.
Sky's the limit, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I tell you what, Jeff, this was a long time coming, because I think we talked about you coming on the podcast at some point when you're coming here doing this.
It's great to be here.
I'm so glad you were able to come on.
Jimmy, thanks for having me. I love what you're doing. I'm a fan of the show, and I appreciate you bringing these stories of our alumni to people, because they need. There's the Prep alumni is an extremely impressive group, and I hope to hear more of these in the future.
Absolutely. And if you're a listener to the podcast and you're going to be out on tour and you see Jeff out there, give him a roll Ramblers. He'll certainly give you that fist in the air and go with pride. So appreciate it. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jimmy.